Today will be lesson 5 in the instructional videos for Master Kuo Lien Ying's original Shaolin form, Chuan. And today we're going to learn 2 new moves going into the second section. In the previous videos we learned the first section. Again, as I stated before, I'm breaking up the form into various sections so that you could practice just part of it at one time and concentrate on the movements within that particular section. Before we begin, I kind of want to restate the reason why I'm doing these instructional videos is to preserve the legacy of Master Kuo Lien Ying, who's well known for bringing his Guang Ping Taiji to America in the early mid-60s and to the mid-80s upon his passing. But he's not as well known for his Shaolin, even though that was one of the main parts of his curriculum. And these days, there's almost nobody else teaching this particularly rare form. And so it's my desire in preserving his legacy to teach the forms as he taught it. And that's what these videos are about. So before we do the actual instructions for the moves, I would do a quick review of the first section to bring you where we are. I'm not going to present it with a lot of detail. I'm just going to go ahead and perform it so you can kind of see the flow. And if you need to refer to more detail, you can go to the previous lessons and look up any details that you need to. So that's where we'll begin the lesson for today. So we'll break it down into 2 separate moves. In the first move, you're going to end up from that last position, from the step behind into this position here. You'll be facing at 12 o'clock, and you're going to move forward 1 step into the 12 o'clock position into the crane stance here. So in the step work from here, you're just going to step up into the crane. At the same time that you're doing the step forward, you're going to do 2 actions here. You're going to come circle around with the right hand and then come around with the left into a circle like that. So as you step forward here, right about when you plant your right foot, right hand will be low and left hand will be high as it comes around in that circle. And then as you go into the crane, you're going to press down and come over with the hand over your left hand like that. So the hand work is probably the more complicated of these of this move. So again, everything's going to happen at one time. So as you step forward into the right, you're going to be right about into this position here. And notice that this right hand starts out with a palm out, but comes circling in like this, like scooping. And the left hand comes down, goes wide, kind of a counterbalance, and then comes pressing down, scooping and pressing down, scooping and pressing down, scooping and pressing down. From here, stepping forward, scooping, pressing down. As soon as you come up with the left knee, you're going to come over and then shoot down like that. So this left hand will be right about where your elbow is, underneath the elbow, pressing down somebody's arm and coming over the top. Okay, again from here, it's all in one motion, but I'm breaking it down so that you get the timing right. Here, and then as the left knee comes up, the same time the left knee is coming up is about the time that your left hand is pressing down and the right is coming through over the top. Okay, so now you want to do that in one continuous motion from the beak hand around, pressing down. Right hand from the blade hand forward, scooping, and then over the top, palm up. Okay, so at the same time that you do the step into the crane. That. Again, as you're just learning it, you can break it into where you step and then go into the crane. That might be easier, but once you get kind of remember where your hands are supposed to be, then you do this one continuous motion like that. Also, you're going from the low bow position, and you want to kind of keep that low position until you come up into the crane and lift. So it looks like this. That's the first part of this movement, first move. Okay, so after you get to that position here, the crane, you're going to turn this over into the beak hand, like that. So it looks like this. You know, the overhand into the press down and over through, and then into the beak hand. The same time that you do the beak hand, you're going to move that knee over to the right just here. Okay? So again, let's break it up into steps so that it's easier for you. Right here, then come up into the crane stance. And then as you turn, just move that knee just a little bit, getting ready for the next move here. And then also at the very end, you want to unlock this left hand so the palm is facing out and you're right here. So the beak hand is going to go on like the 45-degree line, but then as you come through and move that knee, you're going to shift to kind of in line this way. And you'll see why as we do the second move. So again, from this position here, going to step up, and then scoop, and then beak hand. You have to do all in one motion. Up, beak hand, unlock, move the knee a little bit. So that'll be the first move. Again, one more time. Let's just go through this really slow. From this position here, step forward with the right foot. Make the circles, pressing down with the left, coming through and over as you come up into the crane. Then the right hand turns into the beak hand and then unlocks as the knee comes out here. So the next move is going to be fairly difficult physically for many people because you're going to do a high crescent kick out of that crane stance into the drop falling stance. And again, like that earlier move, you're going to be unsupported instead of like being in a stance and then dropping down into the falling stance. You're going to have to drop all the way down on that one leg with that while that leg is out suspended in the end of the kick. And so that's going to be fairly difficult. Again, if you're like not flexible, limber, don't have the leg strength to do this, then what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to kind of modify it and then go down like that after you come into the two-legged stance. But in the old school classical tradition, it's a high crescent kick right into the drop stance. And that's the way I'm going to teach it because that's the way that Sifu taught it. Okay. So I'm breaking up these moves into two movements. Let's practice the second movement from that last stance that we're at, and then we'll put them both together. So in the last stance, you're going to be with the beak hand out here, and then this hand in a palm up position, and you're going to be in the crane stance here. And when I told you to move this foot over, the knee over, it's in preparation of that high crescent kick. As you're doing the crescent kick, there's going to be a couple of things happening, okay? It's going to be hard to describe as I'm trying to do the crescent kick and point out these things, but when you end up, you want your beak hand to end up on the 45 line, okay? Because your stance is going to end up on the 45 line. When you come down, your stance will end up like this, okay? So the initial stance will be 12 o'clock, facing like this, and then the ending stance will be on the 45 line, and this beak hand arm goes out on that 45 line. The circling hand goes out at the same time that you do the crescent. So again, it's easier to demonstrate these separately. From this, the hand goes out, kind of like spreading something out into the sky, and it comes out into line on the 45 degree here as you come down. So beak hand and hand coming down. The hand is going to end up into the vertical position. It spreads out with the palm up and ends up with the palm vertical. Okay? So again, from this position here, like that. You want your weight on the falling side. Again, as I said in many other videos on doing the drop stance, falling stance, your weight's going to have to end up on the inside of the hip. So you cannot be balanced on this hip and come down straight on it. You just can't come down far enough. So as you're doing the crescent, you're going to have to pivot your weight into the inside of that hip as you're coming down. And it's going to be at the same time that your leg comes out. So again, from here, after you kind of start to get this, a couple of the tips that I can give you is that as you throw your hand out and try to keep your back straight, that help lift your leg, crescent kick, higher into the sky. Just imagine that you're lifting your leg with that hand. The hand and the leg are moving in a similar line as it goes through. So using that hand to help your leg lift is kind of like, in my mind, kind of helps support that leg, and I get a higher presentation out of doing that. You kind of like reach out as you're doing that spread with your arm, and that really helps in getting the leg going out. The kick is not a fast kick, it's a medium speed kick, kind of like almost like a a dance movement, even though in function it would be a faster crescent kick. In the form, you want that time to here into the change into the drop. The longer you wait for that drop, the more dramatic that move is. So in doing the presentation, I like to think of the kick and then relax into the drop. Again, you'll find that you're going to have to find your own path through this movement. What I can do is I can give you the starting points and where you should be, but to find your own flow into doing this movement might take you quite a while to get the smoothness coming into the move. There's no way to do this totally in kind of a slow method. You have to just go for it. As many moves in Northern Shaolin are like that. Okay. So again, let's take it again from the beginning of the first move, and then we'll stop in this position here, and then go into the crescent kick, and then there's one more move after that, which is part of the move actually. Okay. So let's do those two moves together a little bit faster, so you start to get the rhythm and flow. So we'll start from the step behind here. Then to come through into the crane and overhand here. Becan, unlock. Crescent, drop stance, block. So we'll go into the second part of that second move after you do into the drop stance. So again, let's take it from the overhand into the crane stance here. When you do into this position here, we'll come up into elbow forward block with a fist near your forehead, and this comes into the rear vertical fist position here. Again, from this position here into bow and arrow stance, and kind of like a boxer's guard on the left elbow going forward, fist by your head, and right vertical fist here. And again, this will be on the line, the diagonal line. So we take that together with from the crane position. From the crane position here, turn, unlock, high crescent kick, and then come up into the block and fist position. To be in this position here. Again, as in the last video, I talked about how many of these moves come out of the various 10 roads in Tantway. And if you're familiar with Tantway, the 7th road looks like this. From the horse stance, drop down, and then coming up into blocking position here. So this position here is the same one as you're doing on a diagonal. In the 7th road, it finishes off like that. But I'm just demonstrating where that movement comes out of the 7th road in Guo Lien Ying's Tantway. Okay, one more time from, let's take it all together now. Let's take the two moves and then I'll kind of break it down into the two sections, okay? So again, from the step behind here, coming forward into the crane stance, overhand, and then the twist, unlock, crescent kick, second movement, and then the block and the fist position on the bow and arrow stance. Okay, this time I'll do a little bit smoother with flow so you can see what it looks like. Let's take it from the turnaround and now do the run and the stamp and then go right into the movement from there. So you can see, again, this is like an example of how if you're working on a particular movement within the Shaolin form, you can just take a few moves before and after, as long as you kind of know what goes before and after, and just kind of work on both that sequential part of it, okay? So again, from here, here, 1, 2, 3, stamp, here, step forward, unlock, high crescent kick, drop down, lock. Okay, one more time. Turn, cap. 1, 2, 3, stamp. Come forward, unlock, crescent kick, right into the block. Okay, that'll be lesson for today. Again, it's kind of a fairly physically difficult movement for a lot of people. So if you have any questions, be sure to leave them in the comments and I can answer them to help you try to work through whatever difficulties you might have with this lesson. Okay, thank you very much.